Okay, my wonderful students, it's Mrs. Bodell, and we're going to be doing Chapter 9, Lesson 5 homework page. The homework page, just so we can get some more practice on adding unlike fractions. This is on page 641, and we're just going to do a couple of these. So I am going to go over the examples in the homework helper so that we can make sure we're all on the right page before we start. So the question here is find 1/6 plus 1/4. We cannot add those as they are because the denominators are not the same. Remember, they have to be speaking the same language. We have a 6 and a 4, they need to be the same. So we're going to write equivalent fractions. And so we can do our multiples over here of 4 and 6. And we're looking for one that both of them go into. So I've got 4, 8, 12, 16. I can count by 6s, 6, 12, ooh, 12. So 12 can be our least common denominator or least common multiple, which is the same thing. So remember, I don't like the way that they write this here because I feel like it's confusing and it doesn't give you the time to actually practice. So go ahead and cross that off. And remember, I want you to stack them up. So we've got 1/6 plus 1/4, and we're adding. Now I'm going to change these both into 12ths. So I'm going to leave a space and put equals 12. Leave a space and put equals 12. Something over 12. Now I have to go back through. I'm going to start with my first fraction. 6 times what gives me 12? 6 times 2. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I get to do this second fraction. We're going from 4 to 12. We're multiplying. 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3. Do the same thing to the top that you did to the bottom. 1 times 3 is 3. Now my denominator is the same. I can add. So the denominators, you're just going to write it down. It doesn't change. And now we're going to add the numerators. 2 plus 3 is 5. And we're going to check to see if that's in simplest form. My factors of 5 are just 1 and 5, so I can't divide 12 by 5. My greatest common factor is 1, so it's in simplest form. 5/12 is the answer. Okay, so let's do these 3 problems at the bottom of the page. I'm going to do the first one with you. Actually, go ahead and pause here, and you complete these 3. 1, 2, and 3. Remember to stack them. 5/8 plus 3/10. Get a common denominator and then come back and check your work. Okay, so I have to think of my common denominators for 8 and 10, and so I can start, I know my 10s pretty well, so I'm just going to write my 10s out. 10, 20, oops, you can't see them. Let me write it. Let me move my thing down. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay, let's stop there. Is there any of these that 8 goes into? Well, I know 8 goes into 80, but are there any lower? 8 doesn't go into 70, 8 doesn't go into 60, 8 doesn't go into 50, 8 does go into 40. Does 8 go into 30? No. Does 8 go into 20? No. Does 8 go into 10? No. So my least common denominator is 40. You can use 80, but you're going to have to simplify more when you're done. So I'm going to leave a space and put something over 40. And then I'm going to leave a space and put something over 40. Now I have to figure out how did I get from 8 to 40 on this fraction. 8 times what is 40? 8 times 5, that's right. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 5 times 5 is 25. So 25/40 is the same as 5/8. Now let's change this fraction, 3/10. 10 times what gives me 40? Times 4, that's right. Do the same thing to the top that you did to the bottom. 3 times 4 is 12. The denominators are the same. Now you can add. So let's see, 25 and 12. Sometimes if it's a big number like that, you might have to write it on the side over here and stack it up. That's fine. 5 plus 2 is 7. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have 37/40. Now, you have to ask, is that in simplest form? Well, I can't think of a single number that multiplies up to 37. I'm thinking about my math facts. I know that 9 times 4 is 36. 8 times 5 is 40, 7 times 5 is 35. And if you can't think of any either, that's because 37 is a prime number. That's because 37 is a prime number, and the only factors of it are 1 and 37. So this is in simplest form. It seems like a big number, but it is in simplest form. Okay, go ahead and let's check our work on number 2. If you haven't done it yet, stack it up. 3/5 plus 1/4, and pause the video here so you can then check your work. Okay, so we've got to get a common denominator for 5 and 4. A common denominator for 5 and 4. We've got to change these into equivalent fractions. So you can write down both if you want. I like to just write down one. I know my 5s really well, so I'm going to do that. 5, 10, 15. And I'm just thinking as I go, can 4 go into that? No. Can 4 go into that? No. Can 4 go into that? No. 20. Can 4 go into that? It can. So my least common denominator is 20. So I'm going to put a space equals something over 20. A space equals something over 20. So now I've got to figure out how I made the jump from the 5th to the 20th. So 5 going to 20, it's getting bigger. So 5 times what equals 20? 5 times 4 equals 20. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 3 times 4 equals 12. Now I go down to my next fraction. 4 times what equals 20? Oh, it's like the opposite of what we just did. 4 times 5 equals 20. Do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 1 times 5 equals 5. My denominators are now the same. I can add 12 plus 5 is 17 20ths. The denominator stays the same. And 17, you might also know, is another prime number. So the only factors are 1 and 17. So it is also in its simplest form. Last one, my friends. This is your last problem of the day for this book. 4/7 plus 1/8. 4/7 plus 1/8. Go ahead and stack it if you haven't stacked it. And go ahead and pause it here and try and do the work and then come back and check it. So we're looking to find a least common denominator with 7 and 8 in common. And so I'm not very good with either my 7 or my 8 facts. So this is my personal choice, but I'm just going to write out both of them. So 7 is 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. This is where I start getting stuck. 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 9 is 63. 7 times 10 is 70. Okay, let's now do our 8s and see if we have any overlap, any common multiple. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56. So there's nothing in here. 7 and 8, no. 14 and 16, no. 21, 24, no. 38, 30, nope, nope, nope. And so sometimes the lowest number is just multiplying these two by themselves. 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 7 is 56. So that's our lowest common multiple. You can always use it, but you might have to do more simplification after, simplifying after. Okay, so we put a space and equals something over 56. We put a space and equals something over 56. 7 times what is 56? Well, we know it's 7 times 8. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 4 times 8 is 32. Now we're going to finish our second fraction. 8 times what is 56? Oh, we know it's 7. 1 times 7 is 7. Now I'm going to add 32 plus 7 is 39. 39/56. Now that also is a giant fraction. I mean, it has large numbers in the denominator and numerator. So it's kind of hard to tell if it needs to be simplified. So it's helpful to think of our rules for simplifying. So are they both even? Well, the 56 is even, but 39 is not. So we cannot take a 2 out of both of them. The way you check for 3 is kind of a fun way, and you add them up together. So 9 plus 3 is 12. You add those two digits, 9 plus 3 is 12, and you can divide 12 by 3. So that works. 6 plus 5 is 11. You can't divide that by 3, so 3 doesn't work. 4s have to both be even. They're not even. 5s have to end in 5s or 0s. No. 6s have to be divisible by both 2 and 3. Nope. 7, there is a rule for 7, but I know my 7 facts aren't going to get me to 39. It's going to get me to 35. 8 doesn't get me to 39. So we're looking at, unless there's a really high number, Mrs. Bodell's going to see 39 divided by, no, that's, I was going to say 13, but I don't think it is. So this is in its simplest form. All 3 of those were. We didn't have to do that work. Okay, my friends, keep up the good work. Tell yourself if you're not getting it, that you're not getting it yet. Make sure you say that. You're going to have lots of practice for this. Don't give up on yourself.